Welcome, everyone. We are here today with community empowerment session with Suman Saha and Dev Sidhu. As usual, we have this empowerment session to empower our community, talk about the issues, talk about help and support as best we can get. As everyone knows, there's over 200 COVID infections through the kids as well, 0 to 10, and there is about similar number in young people from 10 to under 18. So, Suman, this is the bigger concern because we facing it still is okay because we know how to deal with it. But again, when this goes to kids, it's make people more worried, and that, and then it's really serious. So for that, what do you say about this?
Um, I'm also a parent, and I'm certainly big worried this time because the first thing is the kids are not vaccinated, and as I understand that, um, also um, the governing body that's actually gives approval for vaccination has
Yeah.
not approved vaccination for kids under 12 or young people under 12 yet, right? But
Yeah.
kids are getting this time around the Delta variant of COVID, and the parents are certainly really concerned, especially the kids that go to childcare. So it will be really good to hear from a child specialist, and I like to thank all our friends who have sent us their question. So without further delay, I think it would be better to just go and get Dr. Deepak Rai, who is a child specialist, and hear from him and get things really clarified. Dev?
That's good. Welcome, Dr. Deepak. Thank you very much again for your time because always with a one phone call, you're always ready to help.
Right,
And
my pleasure.
yes, so Doctor, the today's concern is as you know, there are infection through the kids. So there are COVID-19 cases found in kids and younger people. That's actually major concern for everyone. So why the kids getting infected? Because they're not going to school and they're at home, and it's what is the actual main the transmission point?
Yeah. First of all, we need to understand. Can I speak in Hindi, English both, or is this?
Yeah, well, sure.
Yeah. So it's a different virus this time, basically, in terms of infectivity. So ये ज़्यादा infective virus है, and it
Right.
affects obviously bigger population. So the change from the alpha and this delta one is the increased infectivity, and that's why the kids are getting infected this time much more as compared to the alpha strain. And yes, I agree. You're saying that the kids are at home, but the parents obviously are the ones who are bringing the infection, and kids are getting infected. That's one way. But otherwise, like even in the community or when the schools were open, they could have got from there. And in the other countries, now the kids are more kind of in the center of those infection groups, because one thing is that they are not immunized, because all the immunized population is 18-year plus. So the kids obviously are not immunized. So they're soft target for infection. So that's one of the reasons why they're getting more infected. And the second reason why they're getting more infected, because this Delta is much more infectious. Third thing I would say, if you look at the kids, like, again, nothing to blame them, but their hygiene levels are not exactly like ours. They don't take that much care. They don't like to put on masks. They don't like cleaning every time. And if they get in a company of other children, they will forget about social distancing and everything. So these are the reasons why kids are getting infected more. However, still, it is not as serious as kind of in adults, but there are still few serious conditions which can happen and which have been reported in the children. So ऐसा नहीं है कि कुछ नहीं होता है, infection होता है और serious भी हो सकता है, but fortunately it is very rare. And another thing which we have seen this time is कि बच्चों को जो नॉर्मली फ्लू होगा 3 दिन 5 दिन में ठीक हो जाता है, बट कोविड जब होता है, इवन दो सिम्टम्स आर माइल्ड, इट कैन लिंगर ऑन फॉर मंथ्स इवन, और इवन मोर देन मंथ्स. तो सिम्टम्स काफी दिन तक रहते हैं और बच्चे को वीकनेस और वो सारी चीजें काफी प्रोलॉन्ग हो सकती हैं. सो डेफिनेटली इट्स probably not that serious, but it's definitely debilitating.
Yeah. Thank you, Doctor. Now I ask Suman to ask you a question, please.
Sure.
Dr. Rai, we know that in Australia, I think there is only one death from COVID, and that was a kid. So it is not at the same rate as the adult, but lots of parents are really concerned. And lots of the questions that we are receiving from them are that is it safe to send our kids to childcare now?
Good question, but unfortunately, there is no generic or uniform answer to that. So everyone's condition is different, and again, it has to be weighed in terms of benefit and risk. So, say for example, if I can afford my kids to homeschool and that both parents at home and they can look after their children, I would say don't send them to childcare. However, if say for example both parents are essential care worker and children are small and there is some safety risk at home, then obviously then it puts them more at risk at home compared to the childcare. And we are kind of prioritizing the immunization for the childcare workers, but still the other kids could be infected. So given that both risk, leaving children at home alone or at the childcare. So in that scenario, I think putting a childcare is probably a reasonable option. But otherwise, if you can afford, if you can manage, I think don't send them to childcare. Just try and homeschool at home.
Dave, the other thing is, you know, this COVID-19, especially the Delta variant, has
Yeah,
actually ravaged through India.
yeah.
Dave, you have, I mean, I have family friends living in India. You have family friends, and Dr. Rai, you have family friends as well. Dave, what questions you are getting actually some of our friends about the COVID variant that has gone through India and now here in Australia?
See, that's you're right, Suman, because what actually happens that when something, any bigger incident happen or a dangerous incident happen, we always get to know, and then that's using as an example everywhere. So that's actually an example for us, and then the preventative procedures we completely blind. We don't know what to do, but again, what we can learn from it to get that at this stage where we are now. So it's gone actually worse than here. So obviously, what we can learn from it, like the preventative point of view, that's as a general, like medically, we just waiting on the government and the authorities to give some advice, and then we waiting. But while that, what we should do?
Look, first of all, I think family is a unit. So even if only adults are affected, kids are going to be affected regardless. And unfortunately, there have been so many families where kids have lost both of their parents. So that is completely different kind of spectrum. But coming back to what we can learn from them in our scenario, I think then obviously we are not into that bad situation. And what has happened in India, like when this thing started, there was hardly any vaccination coverage. So it has obviously affected adults. But since the children were not that badly affected, it was pretty much sidelined and people didn't care much about what's happening in children. But yeah, there was a lot of population in childhood age group which was infected. Fortunately, again, um, I don't know how good is the reporting in India. The system is probably not as well developed and as well under control as it's here. But anecdotally, I can tell you it was very limited number of children who had some serious infections. We call it say the MIS. That's multiple inflammatory syndrome. So multi-organ inflammatory syndrome. So it involves multiple organs, and that can just present as a stomach pain and like red eyes, and then slowly can progress and even can involve heart. There have been few reports, but again, we don't have any convince or any kind of proper official data that how many kids they got. Fortunately, even in India, it was very rare. So that's like physical aspect of it, but the emotional aspect or mental aspect is huge. And I can tell you, even my close friends, some of them, like my friends, they lost the battle, and now it's just the mother with a couple of little children. So this has affected really significantly in terms of mental health. And obviously, the setup in India is not that great. That it can help such a huge population. So definitely, we are still kind of not having much data from India because it's a huge country. Yeah, they're still struggling to kind of get on top of this. So they're focusing on vaccination, but fortunately, we haven't heard anything major which has happened in the children, apart from this multi-organ inflammatory syndrome, where it can be serious. And in younger population, not exactly like 12, 13-year-old, but say example around 20, 25, we complication and ended up in this sudden death, which unfortunately happened even here. We don't know the exact cause, which was, I think, 30 something young man who suddenly died. So these things are obviously very worrying things. So sudden cardiac death in younger population, and in children, the multi-organ inflammatory syndrome. These are the two serious ones which we have to be really careful.
Now, Dev, let's go and check. Some of our friends actually put some questions on our Facebook. So let's go and read through those questions. And Dr. Roy, we request if you can please respond to our friends. They hope they are watching it. So the first question we have from Navneeta Banerjee. And I think it's a really common question there. You have kids going to school. I mean, now they can't go to school, right, Dev? I mean, my daughter, she is in kindy and now she's doing homeschooling. She can't go to school. This
Yeah,
might be
mine
the
is.
same situation with you and Dr. Rai with you as well if you have kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is saying, I think for this lockdown situation, kids are losing their interest in going school. I mean, they are not even going to school. They need to stay home and doing homeschooling. How to motivate them in this tough time is actually a tough question.
Look, I mean, the thing is, the good thing about kids' brain is very malleable. Like you can manipulate it very easily. Unlike adults,
Yeah,
I can't influence maybe Suman or Dave with any of arguments or anything that easily as I
yeah,
can do with the kids. So one thing is that you can manipulate them very easily, but same time
yeah,
it's very delicate as well. So it gets affected with something which we adults probably won't get affected by that. And for
yeah,
kids, you would know that the most difficult part of the day is to getting ready in the morning and going to school, and that part is not happening, so they're obviously happy. Education
yeah,
part is same as in school, it's happening at home as well, so it doesn't affect them. So that's why some of the kids, they're liking home education, but at the
yeah,
same time, after some time, that novelty is lost. They're not getting like kids to kids interaction. So the main thing is we need to involve them. So they shouldn't feel like if they're doing homeschooling, they should be confined to one room, like, and parents shouldn't have any interaction during the day. So I would say keep interacting, keep them motivated, and tell them this is just a short time thing, and you will get to see your friends very soon. And keep up doing the good work. So we need to keep them motivated, and to encourage them. There are different things you can do, like even have a star chart. Like if they've done something well, just keep them like, okay, if you get 5 star, you will get this, you will get that. So there are different types to keep them involved and motivated. One of the
yeah,
examples, what I do is like, I know when is there like recess time, when it's a lunchtime, so I'll prepare something myself and go and give it to them. That's the kind of novelty, and they basically feel pretty like involved and connected, because at a school usually it's just a lunch box, which most of the time will come back not even half empty. But now when I prepare something and during lunchtime, if I go give it to them, they'll finish it.
they will
Because
finish it.
it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, so it's just like how you connect to them. So keep connected, keep them motivated. I mean, motivation talk like adults wouldn't work with the kids. So every kid is different, and you need to know what keeps them motivated. So we need to keep that in mind. And with every kid, we need to personalize the way of motivation. But definitely, we shouldn't be just leaving them in the room and just go and open the room at 3:30 and yeah, your school is over. So we need to connect them in between as well, like lunchtime or recess time, and even we can go in between and just to say how you're doing. Obviously, we shouldn't be interrupting their teaching session, or we shouldn't be like, there were a few reports like parents were popping in the class and just asking questions to the teachers and all that. That shouldn't be happening. It should be just like school, but in between, when there is a break, we should go and connect to them.
Very
That's right.
nicely said, Dr. Roy, and was very positive. The next question, sorry, Dev, I'm going, and because it's a very similar question, I thought that I'd take this opportunity to ask and complete. So the question from our friend Vinitra Jayaraman, and she's saying that homeschooling is happening, but kids are devoid of socializing for a longer period of time. social connection is lacking in virtual medium, which I agree.
Yeah.
How does it affect their mental health, and how to help it as a parent?
Look, I have kind of 50% answered this already. So, as I said, the kid's brain is very sensitive and same time very malleable, like we can manipulate them easily. And they will come back to, they're not very rigid like adults. So at this stage, yes, they're missing their friends and all that, but we need to fill that time and give them really quality time, interact with them much more. And in between, we can have like, just like we have our social virtual chats, and my kids, they have a virtual group and they meet each other and have a chat with each other, even though they are not meeting physically. But that's obviously better than nothing. So keep the interaction going. That's the main thing. They shouldn't be isolated, even if it is virtual. Keep them connected. Keep the interaction going. That's the main thing. If they just there is no point having virtual, so just stop everything. That's, I think, not advisable. So keep them connected. Keep them interacting. And even once the school is over, they can, I mean, again, it depends on how old the kids. So older kids, obviously, they can have their group chats and all those sort of things. Even weekend, they can have a virtual meeting and just have a catch up, like what they're doing to cope up with lockdown and all those sort of things. And the topics are obviously different, depend on how old they are. So topics can be different how they're going to interact. I've seen people even organizing birthday parties just virtually, and obviously it's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. So main thing is to keep them motivated, keep them connected, don't let them isolate, and give them as much quality time as you can. For example, even like what I do is we can't go to movie halls and all. So we just do it at home. We just put a TV on, get the popcorn, just create a movie theater scene and just sit down with them. That's a quality time we spend with the kids. So I would say spend quality time with the kids. Don't lose any opportunity of, even if it is virtually, interacting with other kids or their groups.
Okay,
There is
so
a
Dave, maybe that's something we can consider. Maybe we do an interactive kids, entertainment session or something to
Yeah.
bring kids. If we have someone who can volunteer from the community and help us to do that, that would be great. So, Dave, are you getting any more question from our friends, or any of the questions that's
Yeah, there
already
is a question on the screen, Dr. Deepak. You can read as well. It's a Sakina Akhtar. She's
Yeah.
asking a question. Do you have any suggestion for single parent and childs to hold the harmony?
Okay. Not very clear. So I mean, it basically it's the same thing which applies even if you're single parent. I know it's a bit hard, especially if you're working and you can't work from home. Then obviously you don't have much choice than leaving them to daycare. But again, I'll go back to the same point. Like, give them quality time. Whatever time you have, just give them 100%. I know normal time we'll spend our own time having our own messages and Facebook and all that. Try and cut down that and spend that time with the children. And one thing I forgot to mention, that always look for the warning signs. See if there's anything which is not looking normal for your child, any warning sign that suggests that there may be some mental health issue, especially with the grown-up children. Even with the smaller children, we have seen cases like severe anxiety and all those sort of things. So never ignore any of those signs. If you find like anything looking unusual, either seek medical help, or there are helplines that you can use them, like mental health helplines, and seek help from that. So definitely don't ignore any mental health sign. But for
Yeah.
single parent, again, it's the same thing. It's just giving your kids quality time and keep them connected. Don't let them feel like because of this lockdown they're ignored or they're cut off from the system. And I can tell you, once this lockdown will be over, they will very quickly come back to the normal life because they very quickly adapt to the change, unlike the adults.
Yeah,
The
that's
next
right.
question I have. Sorry, Dave, you want to say
Yeah,
something?
no, just that same thing. Yeah, I wanna ask Sumanji to ask next question. That's fine.
Okay. We have Dr. Rai. The next question we have from Raj V, and I think she's asking. So far, I'm not across this information, but what I understand that the vaccination, the COVID-19 vaccination, has not been approved for kids yet. So she's
Um,
actually asking, and her question is: will the American findings on vaccination use on young kids be completed? So I don't know about
I
the
don't know what
vaccinations
American
and the American
finding
findings.
she is asking. But the vaccines, Pfizer one is approved for 12-year and plus, and Moderna will soon be approved. And
But from 12 years and plus,
yeah,
but what
yeah.
about the kids who are 0 to 12 or
That
13?
age group is still, as we know, is not very badly affected, but the trial has already started from Pfizer and Moderna both. So once that trial will be complete, then obviously we need to have a look at the data, and then obviously we need to kind of evaluate and consider if approval or not. So this is not approved anywhere in the world. Youngest is 12. And regarding 12-year plus immunization here, it's I'm not sure if it's already official or not, but there is going to be vaccination from 12-year plus for what we call vulnerable children. So children who have some disability or they have got some medical condition or immunocompromise, they are definitely going to get immunized even now. And Aboriginal and Torres Islander children also, they will get immunized. Basically, the high risk group, definitely, they have got clearance to get immunized. The other normal children, the year 12, we have already heard that they are getting immunized as well.
Okay.
So
So Dave,
vaccine availability, once the availability has improved, definitely we are going to cover that 12-year onwards normal population as well.
I think Dave, next question for you, but I can see lots of questions are coming. It's all about how to manage the kids at home.
I mean,
Exactly.
child not on studies and concentrated on watching videos. Basically, you are the parent. You need to stop giving them the video access. So this is a general question. This has nothing to do with COVID, and it's a long discussion. It's not just I can give one short answer. This is like millions or billions of people have the same
Yeah.
problem.
Let's
So we are
have our focus.
yeah.
Let's have our focus on kids and COVID-19 because our
Yeah,
subject
exactly.
tonight is kids and COVID-19. So
Yeah.
the next question is again, Dr. Rai. I don't think this is for kids, but one of our friend Bidhan Chakraborty said, can we mix up different vaccination over the time? I think you have answered this question
I've
in
answered
one
this
of our
multiple
previous
times. At
sessions.
this stage, my answer in Australia is no. And the thing is, why we are mixing up vaccine is because of the difficulty in availability. So many countries, what happens, they started with one vaccine and there was some issue and they had to stop. And then they consider whether to mix with others just to compensate for that lack of confidence in people. So it mainly happened, I can tell you the exact vaccine. So with AstraZeneca, there was some loss of confidence in people. So they were not coming up for the second dose. The government decided to give them the second dose of Pfizer. But here we are not in that situation. So obviously it's not recommended. And the thing is, there's no specific any peer-reviewed published data on this. What we have is just some real-world data, again, which is not peer-reviewed and it's not statistically what we call hypothesis is checked and established. So we have some data, but again, it's not very trustworthy. And we are not in a situation where we need to do a mixing and matching. So definitely at this stage in Australia, no mixing and matching.
Thank you. Dave, you getting more questions from
There
our
are
audience?
questions, but I only want to go through the questions that are relevant to our session today, and
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
we will get to it. I think there is one thing I must say: the parents can't wait the kids go to school. So actually, that's one of the things.
You actually
They
take
want
the
to
word
look
out
for
of
it.
my
Next time I
mouth.
Yeah,
get it.
because they are me time as well, obviously.
Yeah. So more than a kids, parents are really waiting for those clocks, and when they
Yeah,
will,
for that they need to get immunized. So
yeah.
parents need to get immunized. The quickly they get immunized, the quickly the schools will open. So they will have that. So first of all, they need to get immunized and make sure whosoever they come in contact, tell them to get immunized. The quicker
Dr.
they get
Roy, I
immunized,
have a
the quicker
great
it will
question
happen.
from one of the friend, Lina Kumar, and she's asking, would like to know how to protect our kids from the virus and what are the symptoms to watch out for? I think this is a great question.
Look, the protection is, as I said, it's the same, like social distancing, mask, and all those things. But given the scenario now, when the kids are at home, I think kids are not the ones to take precaution. We are the one we should take precaution because we are the ones going out and coming back with the infection. Because kids are at home, and if you bring that infection, there is hardly any way you can protect kids from getting infection. It's so difficult with Delta virus. You take regardless whatever precaution, they're going to get infected. So it's us who need to take the precaution because kids are not going out. If kids are going out, then obviously you have to take the standard precaution like hygiene. Try and use mask as much as possible, depending on how old is the kid. So if 6 month old, then obviously it's not practically possible to use the mask. So depending on how old they are, take all the normal precautions. There's nothing special that you can do. The best thing, I'll repeat again, is to get immunized. And even most of the childcare, I think the childcare people, workers, they are immunized. So just check their immunization status if possible, and just normal hygiene maintenance. And the main thing is parents need to take the precaution. Kids usually will be protected if the parents don't bring the infection at home. So I think it goes other way around. Not protecting kids and then you protect yourself. You need to protect yourself. Take all the precautions. Take all the hygienes. Wear mask whenever you are out of your door, even if you are in the same building or same corridor. Wear mask every time. Even indoors, if you're outside your house, wear mask. Every time you touch something, clean your hand, and vaccinate, vaccinate, and vaccinate.
Thank you, doctor.
Dave, I got another question. I think this question worth asking as well, that some of the LGS, they have the children's playground open. How safe it is to allow your kids to go and play in the shared playgrounds and use the same play equipments?
Look, I wouldn't say it's very safe. And it's a matter of common sense. You don't need a medical advice for that. I would say whatever is outside is all covered with virus. What you will do, kids you can't control, they will go and touch everything. And there's a risk that they can bring it home. No one is cleaning those equipment. So I would say avoid. If at all you have to do something, accompany them, go in an open space where there's hardly anything to touch. Say, for example, big playground. And every time they touch anything, you can't do every time, but make sure that you keep cleaning as much as possible. However, it's advisable not to expose them to those those what you put those equipments, the play equipments to touch and all that, and don't make use of it. In fact, at some places police has removed those things so that people don't use it. So like basketball hoops and all, they removed it because people are using it and they're the source of infection. So it's more of a common sense rather than any medical advice. Anything outside is covered with virus. That's what our presumption should be, and take precaution accordingly. And obviously using mask. Don't come in contact or close to 1.5 meter to anyone, even in outside space. Try and maintain the distance, even when the kids are playing. I would advise against like kids mixing up. You can go out with one of your child, just play around, run around, don't touch anything. That's the maximum I would say is probably, and that too in an open ground. And preferably with the mask even on the child, if obviously child complies.
Thank you, Dr. Roy. Dave, you wanna, I think what I hear from you, Dr. Roy, is that better be safe than sorry.
Exactly. It's just a matter of time. We'll get that independence very soon, hopefully.
Dave, do you have any more things to ask? I think we have gone over time today.
Yeah.
We know and understand how important your time is, Dr. Roy. And we
It's
like
okay.
to
Everyone's
you
time
and
is
all the health heroes and what you are doing for the community right now.
It's my pleasure. Yeah.
So with that, Dr. Roy, do you want to say anything to the kids or their parents, or maybe what's the best way they can protect their kids now or our kids now?
So basically, first thing is interact with your kids. Don't let them play with your screen. And that will happen only if you turn off your own screen. If you are just sitting there with your phone or TV whole day, kids, there's no way he is going to stop. So you need to interact with the kids, then they will stop the screen. If you keep telling them, don't use mobile, don't use this, and you yourself is doing that, there's no way kid is going to listen. So you need to stop your screen, stop kids' screen, sit down with them, spend quality time. That will protect kids from any kind of mental health issue. And obviously, kids will not get bored and they wouldn't feel like they're in lockdown or anything. So every parent is different, but I would say cut down the screen time to maximum 1 hour, and that to use it as a reward. Like if they've done something great, okay, you get to see this. Or maybe a couple of times in the weekend, you can sit down and watch movie with them with popcorn and all. So you use it for positive work. Don't just let them do it because you don't feel like going and talking to the child. So interact with the children, use this time wisely, cut down your screen time and plus kids' screen time. I think that's the only thing I can tell you.
Thank you, Dr. Rai, and thank you
Sure.
for your time. We like to thank all the friends who have taken their time to send us their questions. Please do send us your questions as well. And do also let us know in the comment box what you really like, where do you want us to improve, or what are the sessions you actually, or the topic that you want us to cover. Please do let us know, and we will try our best to cover and bring those sessions with either it's a health expert or any other expert or professionals. We'll try to contact them and bring them with us in a session later on to empower the community. So thank you, everyone. Dev?